Okay, I hope I'm ready now. This video is going to demonstrate how to make the cuff down version of the double rolled cuff short sock. And you'll need yarn in two colors, two contrasting colors, a loom, oops, sorry, I bumped the table, a loom, preferably 1/4 inch gauge, a loom that you can use fingering weight yarn with. I'm using the 64 peg loom from the KB His and Her sock loom set. Your loom tool, a row counter, scissors. We'll be changing yarn colors, obviously. Excuse me. You want markers, a way to mark your loom, to mark off your heel and toe section, like I have here. The ones I'm using here are from KB. There's stitch markers, and there's two of them that fit the 1/4 inch gauge looms perfectly. This blue and this purple, and the larger ones you can use with other looms, or if you knit with needles, you can use them with that. You're also going to want to use, you're going to want these light bulb, whoops, I'm sorry, I keep bumping this table. These light bulb stitch markers. I'll grab one out. These locking stitch markers. You're going to need one for every stitch on your loom. So for me, that's 64. I need 64 of them. I'm going to use them at the end when I'm done to transfer the stitches to needles, so that I can Kitchener the toe closed. And that's what the method that I'm using for this. There are other methods, I believe. Oh, I know there are other methods for closing the toe on the loom. I don't know how to do those. I learned how to do the Kitchener stitch after being terrified when I first started. I got into loom knitting to learn how to knit socks. I was crocheting before, and then I discovered sock looms. These are another version of those silicone things. I got these off of Amazon. They're a little bit bigger, but they still work. Yeah, I got into loom knitting to learn how to make socks that I could wear in shoes, so using fingering weight yarn. And because the bigger stitches, you can feel them, and they can make your feet sore. So fingering weight sometimes can still make people's feet sore, but it's a little bit better. Larger or thicker yarns are good for house socks. But anyway, I got my sock looms. I got the His and Her sock loom set, and then I saw that you needed double pointed needles, and it terrified me because I said, I don't want a needle knit. I didn't even look into what you had to do with the needles. I just knew that I did not want to make a cuff down sock because of that. So I found out how to make toe up, and then that's all I did, was toe up socks on my loom. So I might have a train going by, and I'm trying to pick off the little hairs. My cats decided to use this to nap on a little bit earlier. Anyway, I only made cuff down socks because I was afraid of needles, using the needles. And locking stitch markers are what saved my sanity, because I know I will not drop a stitch. And they help me overcome my fear of a lot of things, because it can be hard to drop, that's not a lot of space to work in, and your stitches are small. So if you drop one, it can be hard to recover it. At least it's hard for me. So I hedge my bets, and I use the locking stitch markers to hold my live stitches. Okay, so you're going to need tapestry needle, either a straight or a bent, it doesn't matter. Just the eye needs to be large enough for your yarn. And then, so for the needles, I like to use, so I do have DPNs, and I have the US 1 2.25 millimeter, but I like to use a circular needle. Since I've since learned to knit with needles, since I learned to loom knit, but I still enjoy my looms very much. So I do have circular needles, but I like them better than these, well, because they're flexible. So I like them to hold my stitches. You are not going to be knitting with these needles. They're only going to be holding your live stitches. I'll show you. I have some socks on a circular needle, and so I'll just show you what it will look like. Okay, so here's my, this sock doesn't have anything to do with this tutorial other than I'm showing you how your stitches will be when you're going to Kitchener. So you'll just be on your needles. They're just going to hold your stitches, and you'll use your tapestry needle with the yarn, and you'll be doing all the things that you need to do with that to graft that toe closed. So you're not knitting, they're just holding your stitches. So anything that you have actually that can hold your stitches like that, but with this method, like I'm gonna have 64 stitches, 32 on each needle, because one half the loom is on one needle, the other half is on the other. And so you need to be able to hold them on without them falling off. So that's why I like a circular. Anyway, that's how what your work will look like after you take it off your loom and you transfer it. All your stitches will be like that. Then that's going to be in the second video. But anyway, so you have your DPNs, this kind of needle. There's also these like flexible DPNs. I've used all of them. I also, in the beginning, didn't have any of them and used little like skinny wooden kitchen like skewers. I used them. But I feel like the circular needle is the most secure, and you can get just an inexpensive one off of Amazon or anywhere, and that will be needed for closing the toe the way that I'm going to demonstrate it. So again, this is cuff down. That's not gonna, you won't need those until the second video. Your stitch marker is the same. So I use, the way I put the locking stitch markers on for that part is I differentiate them by color. If you don't have enough of one color to do a whole half the loom, put the same color at the first peg on the half and the last peg on the half. Put that same color, and then, you know, try to keep it pretty much the same in between, and then do a different combo on the other half, but with the first peg on that half and last peg on that half being the same color, so you know a start and end, so you can place them on your needles correctly, on the correct needle. And yeah. So for this part, for part one, we're going to do the cuffs. And the the leg and the heel. The foot, you'll just do, you know, it will be done off camera, and you'll work it to the length that you need. And then this second video will come back with the toe, which both heel and toe are German short row. Do the toe and Kitchener-ing the toe closed. It's going to close on the top of the foot. You can't even see where I closed it here. It's even more invisible than when you close your Kitchener cast-on toe from the loom. I mean, it's there, but it's pretty seamless. But if you really don't want to do a cuff down and you're intimidated by closing that toe, I do have the toe up version. They come out looking the same, but they are made differently. The method is different. So both of them are fairly uncomplicated. They're very beginner friendly. It's all knit stitches. There's no purl stitches. Just knits and changing color. So, okay. Hopefully I've covered everything we need to know, and I'm going to get started. Starting with your main color. Sorry, keep bumping everything. Your main color is the one that's going to be for the main portion of your sock and the shorter cuff. We start with that color. We're going to make a slip knot. Twist your yarn, go through the loop, shrink it down. We don't need it super big. Leave a long enough tail for weaving in. I like long tails. Put it on your first marked peg. Oh, I didn't tell you how to divide your peg. I'm sorry. Let's go there. You're going to divide for the heel and toe. Zoom back out. The heel and toe are going to be worked on the same half of the loom. So you divide your loom in half. For me, half my loom is 32 pegs. I'm going to put a peg marker on peg 1, my first peg. And then I'm going to count to 32 and put another one on the 32nd peg. Then I'm going to take those 32 stitches and divide by 3. It doesn't divide evenly, so I'm going to take my larger number and have that be the center section of my heel. And then the smaller numbers, so I'm going to round, I'm going to have the smaller numbers. I'm going to do 10, I round down to 10 for these outer sections. These are going to be the decrease and increase sections of my heel and toe. And then the 12 stitches for the center section that will not be decreased. It will stay the same. That's how I'm going to divide mine. Divide yours however you need to. If you have a narrower heel, a higher instep, you can have the smaller number be the center section, and you can round down for that, and then round up for the outer, the increase and decrease sections. Or if you on the heel only, if you really have a high instep, you can go over the halfway point of your loom and for the increase and decrease, so that you're working more short rows on your, and it'll give you a deeper heel. So, but mine on the 64 peg, I have 10, 12, 10. So I have a marker on peg 10, 12 on, you know, in between. Put my marker on the next one that marks from this peg to this peg is 10 pegs. So I think that's understandable. Okay, so got our slip knot on the first peg, and we're going to do a double E-wrap cast on. Let me try to get this up a little higher, more angled. This is a simple cast on. I think it's a stretchy one. So I like to catch my yarn as I wrap it around the first time, then wrap a second, and then pull that over and cinch. So, or you can just do a wrap, hold it, wrap again, pull over. Either way, like if you wrapped it, you could wrap it twice, but you need to have some slack to pull it over and then cinch it up. And we're going to do that all the way around the loom. Oops, I'll do a few more. Let me see if I get closer, if that'll help. Don't blur. Okay, do that all around your loom. Okay, so I have my whole loom cast on. Now we're just going to start working in rounds. So you're going to want your row counter and row 1, round 1. They're rounds when you're going all the way around, and rows if you're going back and forth. I don't count rows on the heel and toe section. I don't need to count them. Like, it's a visual thing. You can see how the stitches are. You can see what you need to do or where you're at. But I do count rounds for the cuffs, the leg, the foot, and I do that to make sure that my second sock will match. Okay, so all of the knits we're going to do are U-wrap. So just take your yarn, go around, and knit over. The way I knit over, I'm sorry, we have another train. I'm right by a crossing. There's just no escaping them. I apologize. Hopefully you don't have a phobia of that, of trains, and that terrifies you. Okay. So I just wrap. The way I knit over is I scoop. A lot of people come hold their loom tool differently and go under it that way. I come from above. I hold it like more like a pen instead of a knife. Neither way is wrong. However you need to hold it to knit your stitches over. So just knit around. This is all we're going to do for 10 rounds. And so continue. Once you've come all the way around and you're back to your first peg, just do it again until you have 10 full rounds done. Then come back and I'll show you what the next step will be. Okay, I've got my 10 rounds done, and now it's time to do the next part. You're not going to cut this yarn or anything. You're just going to leave it. You're going to push them all down to the bottom of your loom. Push them all down and make sure your working yarn is coming out through the last, in between the last peg and the first peg of the round. And then just kind of set it aside. We want that to kind of stay out of the way. We're going to take our contrasting color and we're going to cast on just like we did our main color. We're going to cast on above it, and we're going to be working it independently above it on the loom, above our other cuff. So we'll do the same thing. Leave a tail for weaving. Make another slip knot. Take your yarn, twist it, grab there, pull. Come to your first peg. Make that smaller so that it's not so unwieldy. Put it on your first peg and cinch it. Keep it higher on the loom. We're going to do the double E-wrap cast on again for this, but all up higher on the loom. Come on. So get that all cast on, and then come back. Okay, so I'm all cast on above. Now reset your row counter. We're going to start counting again. This time 20 rounds. But you make sure you're only working your contrast color. You're not touching any of these stitches down below. So keep your work up higher on your pegs. This is where, if you are, hold your loom tool knife style, it's probably going to be easier for you than it is for me. Because you can come up under, you have more control of what you're doing. Anyway, but the way I do it, the way I knit, by scooping, sometimes I can, sometimes I accidentally go too far down and snag that bottom stitch of our first cuff, first part of the cuff, and you don't want to do that. So whichever way that you knit, whether you're knitting, whether you knit like that or like me, just make sure you're only working these. So you still have your whole live first cuff down below, but work 20 rounds of this one independently. And then when you have them, all 20 rounds done, come back and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so the 20 rounds of the second cuff are done. So now we want to join them. We're also we're gonna be cutting our contrasting color, leave a long tail for weaving. I'm pushing them up together. The way I knit, it's easier for me. Sorry, I had to pause to sneeze. It's easier for me to work the loops, the stitches on my loom, if they're not all the way at the bottom. Okay, so take now your working yarn, your main color, working yarn for your first cuff, and the tail from your second, and just tie them into a half knot. And then drop that tail down inside. You're gonna get off of here. So you're just gonna start knitting with your main color again. And you're gonna knit these two off together as one. And this, we're gonna do 10 rounds for the leg. This is gonna be round 1, even though you're knitting them together. This is round 1 of your leg. So just knit them off together. If it's too difficult to do them at the same time, you can knit them one at a time. Yep, just knit them off as one all the way around. That's round 1. Then continue working in rounds until you have 10 full rounds completed. And then come back and we will start our German short row heel, and it will be in our contrasting color again. So I'll see you then. Okay, I've got my 10 rounds for my leg done. I'm ready to start the heel. So I'm going to take my contrast yarn again. We're not cutting our main color. It's staying down into the side like last time. This time we're just going to be working short rows, German short rows, on half the loom. So take your contrast yarn, leaving a long enough tail to weave it in, and just, you don't have to make a slip knot this time, just kind of you wrap it, hold it, and start knitting. We'll knit a few stitches just to kind of help secure the yarn, the new color. And then I'm going to make a half knot with my tail and my main color. And then just drop it down inside. The tail, the main color stays out. So keep knitting across until you're in your last marked peg. For me, that's the peg 32. But knit all the way to the last marked peg for your heel section, and then come back. Right, so now I'm knitting that last stitch, and then I'm going to bring my yarn forward and pull across, forward and pull it across tight, and wrap the peg next to it going the other direction, going back like towards peg 1. Knit that over, so now that peg looks like we have 2 loops on it. So after knitting that peg over, pull some slack in that stitch. and then don't pull your slack out, but just start knitting. It'll lessen, the slack will lessen. Start knitting back the other way. And go all the way back to peg 1. Okay, back to peg 1. Knit it off. You might be able to hear my son talking in the background in his room. Okay, so we do just like we did the other one. You know, pull the front, pull it across, the peg next to it going in the other direction, knit it over, pull some slack, and continue knitting back the other way. So we're just going to keep yo-yoing back and forth, going 1 stitch before each time. So you're going to knit across now to the peg before your last stitch, and then the one before your first stitch, back and forth. We're going to keep doing that until all of our pegs in our marked section look like they have double loops. So I'll see you when I'm over on this end again. Okay. Knit it, pull it forward, across, knit the one beside it, and pull some slack. If you don't pull slack, it can get really hard to pull it across and make that 2 loops, look like 2 loops. So just keep doing that back and forth, like I said, until you get to these last 2 marked pegs on the inside. I will see you when we get there. All right. Oh no. No. I'm wrong. Just wait. Okay. I had thought I was in the right place, but I had one more stitch to do. Now I'm on my last one. I'm gonna knit like the others. Not the last one, the last 2. I have another one over here to do. Pull it forward, pull across, knit, but don't pull slack. After these inner marked pegs, don't pull any slack. You're not going to be decreasing anymore, so you don't need it. Sorry for the dinger. I have a dishwasher that doesn't work right, so it we don't use it, but it makes noise. Okay, now this is our last decrease. Start going back the other way. And then we'll immediately be starting our increases. We're going to work across back to that other last decrease we made. We're going to start increasing back out. But this is how your stitches should all look. And then, I've got working yarn over that. These ones are all single loops and the others look like double. So I'll be back when I'm back over at this peg. All right. So we're ready to start doing our increases. We're at the first one. And these first 2 that you do, because you're going to be going back and forth, this one, then back to that side, back to the one after. But these first 2, these marked pegs, they're going to be real tough. They're going to be the toughest to get over. So be firm but gentle. And slowly work them over. If you're hearing like sniffing sounds and all kinds of cats meowing, my animals are all up because my husband just left for work. So everybody's up and moving around and it gets noisy. Okay, so hold your working yarn behind taut. Hold it taut so you don't slip that over as you slip this tight double stitch over. And just work it till it gets over. Then your yarn goes behind the peg that you just knit, and then in front of the next one going the other direction. Oh, one of my cats is coughing now. And another train. It is chaos. Okay. Go across. We'll be back when I'm at that peg. Alright, I'm at the next one. On the other side. Same thing. Hold your working yarn taut behind that peg. You know, it's wrapped. And just gently but firmly work that stitch. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to hold my loom up. This is an awkward angle for me because I'm used to knitting like against my body. Let me get my stitch hooked. All right. Just take your time. And knit it over. Yeah, it's just an awkward angle for me so I can try to help you see what I'm doing. And knit back the other way. I'll see you at the next one. All right, back at the next one. I apologize if all the background noises are too distracting. I really don't have a quieter place to record these, so all I can do is apologize. Okay, so now we're at the next one. This one shouldn't be as difficult as the other ones, and they just kind of get easier as you go. Make sure though to hold your working yarn, still hold it taut behind so you're not pulling it off with the other yarn. Then come back around and go the other way. Binks, be quiet. Okay, so I'll see you when I'm over here. So here we are at the next. And knitting it over. Got it. So just keep going back and forth until till you've increased back out and you only have the double loops left on the first peg and the last peg of your heel section. You're not going to go all the way out. You're not going to increase all the way out to those. So when you're left with just those two pegs that still look like the double wrap, come back. Right, so we've just got the first and the last pegs left with like the double stitch. So we just knit this one off, the one next to the first peg, and we're going to go back the other way like we have been all the way to that last peg, and we're going to knit it off, but we're going to stop right there. After knitting that, we're going to stop, and then we'll be coming back to the front and grabbing our main color. So I'll see you down here at this other end. I'm at the other end. I'm going to knit that final increase on this side, knit it off, and I'm going to cut the yarn, cut my contrast color, leaving a long tail for weaving in. Then we're going to come back to your starting peg where you've still got your working yarn of your main color connected. And we're going to begin counting rounds again. This is now starting on the foot. You're going to start working in rounds. This is round 1 of your foot. And you will work it however many rounds that you need for your size or the size that you're making. I apologize, I'm bouncing this table. Ideally, you'll make your finished sock length will be about a 1/2 inch shorter than the actual foot length that you're making it for, to make it fit more snug. The width will also be like about an inch, you know, anywhere from a 1/2 inch to up to 2 inches, but maybe not 2 for the loom. At least a 1/2 to an inch narrower than your foot, because you want it to you want that negative ease so it fits snug to your foot and it's not all loose and sloppy. With wear, because these socks don't have elastic in them, they will loosen up. I think it might be windy outside. With wear, they will loosen up and stuff, so you just want them to fit snug. So, okay, so start knitting with peg 1. This is where we're going to knit off our last double loop peg, so that last increase. And just knit around. But when you get to your the last peg on this half of the loom, where you cut your contrasting yarn, when we get there, we're going to make a 1/2 knot. So I'll see you there. Okay, I knit that last one over. I tie a 1/2 knot, drop it down so it's out of the way, and just continue knitting your round. Again, this is round 1, and you continue working and counting your rounds until you have your foot length as long as you need it and you're ready to start the toe. So if you're trying to figure out, you're gonna start your toe, if you know what your gauge is, so you know the number of rounds that you need to make or whatever. So your toe's probably going to be about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 long. So on top of you wanting your finished foot length, that's from heel to toe, to be like a 1/2 inch shorter than your actual foot. So say your foot's 9.5, you want your sock to be 9 inches. When you're going to start your toe, you want to have from your heel section to the finished foot section, not counting your toe, you're going to have it be about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches shorter. So it'll be about 7.25 inches to 7.5 inches maybe from the heel to the finished length of your foot portion. And then you'll start your toe. And that should give you the correct size for your foot. So work your foot length, just keep knitting, keep track of the number of rounds that you make, and so that you can do that same number on your second sock. And that's the end of this video. We'll come back in the next one and do the toe, which will be nearly identical to the heel. And I mean, it's the same method, but it's just like whenever there's just minor differences because we're doing color change and stuff. So, and we're doing closing our toe up on top of the foot with the Kitchener stitch. So yeah, be back for that. Be ready with your either a circular needle or double pointed needles or something that can hold your stitches, like I showed in the beginning. And yeah, hope you'll be back for that. See you in the next one.